Hello everybody, my name is Karen Weinman and I'm from Pathways to Inner Mastery, and this is the third installment out of 7 where we're learning about the different pathways to being more conscious in our lives. It belongs to a website called Pathways to Inner Mastery, where we are learning about being conscious, about transformation, about healing. There are forums, there are discussions, there are debates, there are courses, workshops that you can learn online, as well as a library where you can read, etc., etc. But let's come back to today. I want to talk about the third step that we can take to being more conscious in our lives. I have discussed 2 before this, the first being the physical level, where we connect with our bodies and listen to what is going on when we get sick or when we need to be guided. The second was about our emotional levels and stopping to notice how we're feeling and expressing that. And today I want to look at the mental level. It's a very interesting level, and as I've said before, this may be levels that I'm discussing separately, but at the end of the day I think they all work together. But I have teased it out just so we can learn more, and hopefully you'll be more inspired to start looking at how you can be more conscious in your everyday life. Of course, when we come to the mental level, it's so part of us. We don't really stop to think about what's going on with our thoughts, not only to notice what we manifest in our lives, but just to what we are simply just thinking all day long. Most of the time it is very negative and very critical, and we just let it run our lives so that we end up being a slave to our minds. So I would like to challenge you to slowing down, to being more conscious about what's going on in your thoughts, and noticing maybe for the first time, how do you think? Are you a negative thinker or are you a positive thinker? When things happen around you that don't go the way you expect them, what happens up here? What is the thinking process? What is the thought process? Do you start to tear the situation apart? Do you tear yourself apart in the process? Are there negative thoughts? The Buddhists call the mind the monkey mind. That's for a good reason, as I'm sure you'll notice, that our minds are really up to mischief all the time, distracting us, seeing things in a way which are not necessarily very positive, unless we start to slow it down and watch our words. And of course, unless someone's ever taught us, and that's something we'll talk about later. So I'd like you to, when you can remember, of course, because we're also very good at forgetting, especially when the mind knows we're going to watch it. So to set your cell phones, to set your mobile phones, to set alarms on your laptop, things in the day to remind you to just start watching. What am I thinking? What is the thoughts that are going through my head? Are they negative? Are they positive? Do they build me up or do they tear me down? Because of course this is a block to becoming more conscious. We get so caught up in being distracted with the mind that we don't always notice what is going on. And of course, when we notice that we are being negative, that we tear ourselves down, that we use language that is not very supportive of ourselves, our lives, of our self-esteem, that we could do that in a little bit of a different way. And the first step is to just become conscious of what we're thinking. And of course, this takes practice. So remind yourself of it as many times as you can. And when you start to notice how negative the thoughts are, think about what you can do to change it. How can you have more positive, affirming thoughts? Of course, there are affirmations and there's all kinds of techniques that we can start to use to have a more positive thinking mind, but also to start slowing the mind down to observing it. And that brings me to the next section I want to discuss, which is about making the journey from the head to the heart. It's not an easy journey, but one that is incredibly rich and incredibly special. And so starting to notice how much your head is in charge. How often do you try and control the situation around you? How often do you try and make everything perfect around you? Perfectionism is a very typical symptom of our mind completely in control of our lives and driving us crazy, because of course nothing can be that perfect. And when we can find the balance between being in the moment with our hearts and our bodies, together with the mind, we can create beautifully. But of course, first of all, we need to start watching and just noticing where we try to control everything, where we need to know every single detail. And yeah, not allowing the process to unfold. So I'd like to invite you to take a moment, have a look at what is going on in your mind, to take a few moments a day, because our minds chatter from the moment we wake up until the moment we go to sleep. So have a look, if you can remember, and what's going on in your thoughts. And do you think you're a more head-orientated or heart-orientated person? How strong is your mind? And of course, there are ways that we can start to bring more balance. Things like meditation, things like being mindful in every moment. And those are practices we will discuss later. But right now, I dare you, slow things down, look at starting to be more conscious in your life, more conscious with your mind. What else is going on the mental level? And are there patterns that keep repeating? Maybe you'll notice there's certain themes to what is chatting in your mind. Write them down, keep a list. Start to become aware of, there might be a pattern which might have been triggered by a situation, by a person, by an environment, or maybe even while you're watching that you notice it gets worse and worse. I think it is quite exciting to start watching and observing our minds rather than the other way around, so that we can start making our minds a slave to us and turning it around. So try it out. Please let me know what happens. I'd be very curious to know what you learn, what you notice. And if you'd like to interact with me, either come and join me on my website, which is pathwaystoinnermastery.com, or join me on Twitter. My handle is Pathway to Mastery. The 2 is a number 2. Or on Facebook, Karen Weinman, Pathways to Inner Mastery. Come and give me some feedback. What have you noticed about this mental level? And what does it have to do with blocking your consciousness? How conscious are you able to be when your mind is chattering away? I hope that you have enjoyed this discussion and that you feel inspired. And of course, dare to be conscious. Speak to you soon. I'm Karen Weinman from Pathways to Inner Mastery. Thank you. Bye-bye.